Captain Marvel has done it. The film has now reached $1 billion at the global box office. Any film which reaches this milestone is always hugely impressive. I mean, only 38 films have ever reached the $1 billion milestone at the global box office. What is more impressive about Captain Marvel reaching this milestone is the amount of negativity that has surrounded this film, and whilst audience discontent towards the film was minimal, it got a lot of press and was quite a big talking point of the film's release. Even Rotten Tomatoes had to change the mechanics of their website due to such poor audience press. However, Captain Marvel overcame these needless setbacks and has gone on to be a highly successful film commercially, and you know what? It's not that bad either. Captain Marvel becomes only the 7th MCU film to hit the magical $1 billion mark, and what's even more interesting is it is the first Marvel film to reach this milestone without the character being introduced in an earlier film. The future looks good for Captain Marvel. Overcoming the online trolls and being this huge success just shows how well received the character has been, and will hopefully help to add more diversity into the MCU. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how Captain Marvel actually managed to hit the $1 billion milestone at the global box office, similar to my Aquaman video. I might start making a series of these films of how it reached $1 billion, so if you do enjoy this type of video, do let me know. But anyways, let's talk about how Captain Marvel reached $1 billion. So right out of the bat, this was a massive reason Captain Marvel reached the $1 billion mark. Captain Marvel, as we all know, is the MCU's first solo female-led film. Many female Marvel fans would have been very inspired and interested to go see a Marvel film, which actually had a woman lead. For long-time fans, they've grown up the last 11 years seeing their favourite superheroes on screen, but the majority have been men. Now this large set of fans are finally getting some much-needed representation within the MCU. It's a similar effect that Black Panther had. Here we have a film led by a black man, the first in the MCU's history. A huge set of fans want to support this as they are receiving representation in a franchise they have never received before. It's a big reason why these films are so successful. If a large group of your fans have had little to no representation within a series they have grown up with, these fans want to see the first film which actually represents them in a massive way. What's most important about these diverse films Marvel are releasing is the diversity is not a plot point of the actual films. It's never referencing Captain Marvel that she's female, and it's not something that defines her as a character. I think it is very important for diversity that women are represented better in the MCU, and whilst they have had female characters, not enough time has been devoted to them, and it is great to see the MCU addressing this problem, and I think it makes for a richer and more interesting cinematic universe. Now, I have had my say on the marketing of Captain Marvel. It was very bad and, in my opinion, a bit of a disaster. The trailers were uninteresting and bland, with particular highlight going to the train chaser clip that was released, which I liken to the general colour grading being that of concrete. These poor trailers, partnered with Brie Larson's poor marketing skills, put Captain Marvel in what looked like a bad position. All the attention being brought to the film seemed to be negative, but as the old saying goes, there is no such thing as bad press. Although the marketing and PR side of the film was handled fairly poorly, at least people were talking about the film. The online trolls bad-mouthing this film actually brought it more to the public's attention and quite clearly generated a mass amount of interest for the film. If there were no online trolls, the film may not have actually done as well, with the general public perceiving this film as a fairly generic superhero film, which is what the trailers made Captain Marvel look like, even though it is a lot better than that. With the news of Marvel's first female-led solo film being attacked by online trolls, people were actually turned towards the film and wanted to see for themselves if this film was as awful as these people were saying. And from there, this actually helped Captain Marvel in a massive way, and the marketing now can be deemed a massive success. How could anyone doubt the MCU now? In my video, if Captain Marvel will fail, I do mention at the end, it's almost certainly not going to fail. The MCU has been going now for 11 years. A film franchise does not keep going for 11 continuous years unless it is good and built up a loyal fan base, something which Marvel has completed tremendously well. The MCU has been going from strength to strength and shows no signs of slowing down, with films increasing in quality and becoming more and more successful. A MCU film will fail eventually, but it will not be a dramatic fall from grace, but a more steadier decline as a fan interest dwindles. The MCU has built itself around its loyal fan base, and Captain Marvel was never going to fail with such a huge fan base behind the film supporting it. That partnered with the fact this film comes right before Endgame, fans are eager to know if Captain Marvel will link in any way to the biggest film of the decade, and if there are any hints or Easter eggs to Avengers Endgame. A similar thing happened with Black Panther being right before Infinity War. Fans were eager to know if any Easter eggs would be dropped in the film, revealing any plot points for the upcoming film, and I think these factors definitely helped both films' box office take. Whilst this is not the best critically received Marvel film, and probably sits around the middle in my opinion of best to worst MCU films, Captain Marvel is still a good film. The film is fun, builds a universe, and is supported by great performances from Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson. Very few films can reach the magical $1 billion milestone and be essentially bad films, except if it's the Transformers, which I still wonder how these films made $1 billion at the box office. They are the reason we cannot have nice things. They say today, in our world with social media, word of mouth between people is still the biggest factor affecting film attendance, and not what is said on Twitter, Facebook, or even YouTube. With Captain Marvel being a good film, people were talking and saying the online trolls are wrong and not to listen to them, and I can imagine this gave renewed faith for general audience goers that the film was actually good, and I think this definitely lifted attendance numbers. I for one thoroughly enjoyed Captain Marvel, and I am looking forward to the MCU exploring further into the character. I personally think it is fantastic Captain Marvel has crossed the $1 billion mark. It is a good film which didn't deserve the ridiculous backlash it received. Captain Marvel also helps to inspire young women who have had fairly little representation within the superhero genre, and now have a character women can now look up to and young girls can be inspired by. With Captain Marvel reaching $1 billion at the global box office, shows there is no signs of the MCU slowing down, and the cinematic universe moves from strength to strength, with this being the 7th film to reach the $1 billion mark, and soon Endgame will become the 9th. Clearly Marvel is right to build the future of the franchise around Captain Marvel, with this film being so successful, and I think that is what we will be seeing over the coming years, and I'm definitely completely on board with that. And I'm really excited to see where the MCU goes with Captain Marvel and what happens to her in Endgame, as I'm definitely invested in the character. But there you have it, that's how Captain Marvel reached $1 billion at the global box office. Do you have any more reasons why this film reached the $1 billion mark? Please let me know, and as always, thanks for watching.